there is a lot of different energies coming up. We are experiencing a lot in the sense of we have this beautiful Mercury in retrograde, which is a very interesting Mercury in retrograde versus the feeling of a lot of other times of Mercury being in retrograde. There's an interesting kind of flavor with it. There's also the solstice coming up this week, holiday season coming up for many folks this week. So the solstice in the Western Hemisphere is this week. And so there's a lot of different energies that are presenting in many different ways. And one of the things I feel is presenting for a lot of people in our awareness, especially as folks like us who are really showing up to do our work and really are holding a space of wanting to be in our truth and really embracing and embodying our authenticity and our sovereignty, which means we're having to clear out old wounding, old thought patterns, beliefs from ourselves, from our ancestors, and from past lives and other experiences. What I'm seeing is folks like us are having a heightened sensitivity to people in victimhood. People who are not wanting to take responsibility, people who are externally blaming. Ooh, there's a lot of emotion coming up for that. And I don't know about you, but if you're experiencing this in your daily lives or you're seeing it in the collective with coworkers or with people driving or people just around at the grocery store or wherever, what's fascinating is the levels of work we are doing, showing up even for today. We know if you're here today, you're doing the work. It's in some ways, it's heartbreaking because our sensitivities are so heightened that we can watch other people that it's just a quick mindset shift. If they were to just wake up to this illusion that they're staying in, right? Or that they're sourcing from a past experience and they're staying in that. If they just were to look at it and wake up and wanted to face it, that would shift so quickly for them, right? So our heightened sensitivities are, we're seeing them wanting to stay. I call it like sitting in their shitty diaper. They just want to stay there, right? They don't want to take responsibility and saying, oh, I'm having this reaction because it's mine. It has nothing to do with anyone else but my reaction, right? That so there's a sadness in the sense of this victimhood people are in that we're starting to be able to see, oh, okay. But there's also a level of us still in our victimhood. Where are we not taking responsibility? Where are we not showing up? Right? So we're in this pot right now. And that's why this Mercury in retrograde is fascinating, because the flavor is, of course, around communication and things like that, technology, communication. But it's making us show up in a way of being very clear on how we communicate to others to support them in how they are showing up. And I'll give an example. Yesterday morning, I asked my husband to do something. And I asked him, like, hey, before we go out, can you run the dog? We have a 1-year-old and he runs. And I'm like, can you run the dog? And I was very clear, because that way, since we're going to leave her for a long time, she's not all wild, right? And I made it very clear. He was not hearing it. And that there was like some heavy retrograde energy, but I know I was holding an integrity, a very clear message, because I knew that it was going to get distorted. So I was holding that energy of being very clear. He was like, I will do he then didn't build in time before we had to leave to do it. And he went right into victim. Like, I'm doing it later because X, Y, and Z, because you told me to do it this way. You told me to walk them. But wasn't he wasn't holding a space of the clear communication that I was bringing forward before, because that way she's not wild when we get back. So we had a conversation on our way back around it. And he said, I thought you were saying this, but what he was going into was blame. Because he was, before we left, going into, well, it's all about your needs, right? And he was going into all of his victimhood. It's all about you. Why do I always have to do, And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. And so instead of me going right back at him and being triggered, like this isn't our needs, this isn't my needs, this is our family needs. We have a dog together, all that kind of stuff. What I did was I was like, oh, okay, this is these are my needs. Okay, the dog is my needs. And I just kind of put it in that way, not a smart ass. But what I was sourcing from was holding a space of, I see you in victim right now. I see you blaming everyone else but the choices you made, right? And I was just holding that energy and I'm not engaging in it. And it shifted him like that. And then we were able to have a really good connected conversation around why he didn't. Because he's in training and he's like, I want you to support me on my training. He's running a marathon soon, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. You run every day. I didn't think the training was any different. Right. So we got to come into a clearer conversation. But what I noticed the shift was when I held a different space of inside of me. I see you in your victimhood. I see you wanting to blame me. And I'm not going there. And something unraveled. And that was a new approach for me. Because again, if a man's coming after me trying to get the last word, it's not going to happen. Right. So like I could easily go back into my wounding and be like, we're not playing this game. I'm going right into your energy and I'm going right in. So as we're moving through the holidays, and if you are going to be spending time with family or you are with coworkers and other people around you, notice and pay attention to this concept of victimhood, not taking responsibility, external blaming, because it feels a little more amplified with this retrograde and holiday season. Whew.